Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we make it our business to help you take dominion over your money and your life. And we are excited to do that once again with today's episode. Do us a favor, man. Share this with your people. Don't be stingy. We give out gold nuggets every episode. So text them, put it on your social media. And if you do that, tag us at His and Her Money. No matter what social media platform you use, that is our handle. Show us some love and we'll show you love right back. Also, if you've been listening for a while, but you have yet to leave us a 5-star review, please do so. Take a couple seconds and tell everybody, yo, this show is off the chain and y'all need to tune in. And we want to thank you in advance for doing that. We are excited about today's episode because we're going to be talking a little business, a little entrepreneurship, because the gatekeepers are gone, ladies and gentlemen. And any and everybody has the opportunity to create something of their own. Now, listen, we're not the people that come on and say, everybody quit your job and start a business. But we are the people that say everybody needs to have more than one way to make money. And so that's why I'm excited about today's episode. We got a longtime friend by the name of Marcus Garrett here to share his journey to once being bound by debt, to getting out of debt, to starting a business of his own. And he wants to share his story so that you can create a story of your own. So get your pen and paper ready, get your notes app open, and let's get ready to learn from the Marcus Garrett about how he was able to build his personal brand online. So let's not delay this any further. Let's go get Marcus so we can hear his story. Hey, Marcus, welcome back to the His and Her Money Show, my man.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you. We've been acquainted for some time. You've done some great things in the online space in different genres, and now you're building something that's totally your own. And so we're excited to hear more details about your whole journey. But before we get into what you got going on right now, some people are being introduced to you for the first time. So can you say hello to them and then let them know what you are all about?
So I'm the Marcus Garrett, author of Debt Free or Die Trying. I buried myself $30,000 in debt and dug my way out. Released that book in 2016, became a bestseller on Kindle in 2020 when I did a second edition release. It is now an acronym, which is debt, define the problem, establish a plan, build a budget, and trust the process. And then in 2021, I relaunched my own brand under the Marcus Garrett and really just changed the tagline with one word change, but it's entertaining conversations with your favorite influencers and entrepreneurs about life after debt. That one word change has been motivational conversations. And thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man. So take us back before the Marcus Garrett was doing his thing on his own. You were just full of ambition, ready to take on the world, graduating from college with the whole world in front of you. What happened from there? What was going on with your dollar bills?
Graduated school in 2005. So I don't know where that puts me on the demographic. I'm definitely a geriatric millennial, I've been told and found out this year, on the cusp of 40 for those of you keeping track at home. But in 2005, 22 years old, graduated with $9,000 in credit card debt and a $3,000 school loan. My parents had signed up for what Texas calls about the equivalent of a 529. It's a Texas Tomorrow Fund. So about 90% of my school was covered. And I ended up transferring, lost a few hours thinking like most 22-year-olds that I know everything. I lost about 11 hours and thousands of dollars. I had to pay for that out of pocket. My parents told me good luck and came out of school looking pretty good. And I got a low monthly consolidation loan offer, one low monthly payment. I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to get over on the banks, man. They don't even know I'm about to put the industry on the ear. I just got this degree in business. Like I'm about to go out here and make six figures because that's what, people with degrees in business do. And got a blank check for somewhere, I think it was $10,000. 22 years old, never made more than $9 an hour. And so I was like, all right, pay off $9,000 of debt or make it rain. I think if you heard the title of the book, you probably know which direction that I chose on that pivot, that fork in the road, that yellow brick road. I went out, made it rain. I made it rain for myself. I made it rain for friends, family, friends, anyone who knew me that time. It's actually a pretty epic weekend. Bought a car And before the weekend was over, I had $26,000 in total debt. So I went from $9,000 to $26,000 in about a 72-hour period.
I mean, if you're going to do it, I guess just do it all the way. I mean, if you're going to mess up, let's just completely mess up in 72 hours.
Yeah. That's the theory of the 22-year-old. This is pre-Marcus. So this is not this is just Marcus Garrett. That's the mindset that he had.
Now, you said you had a degree in business. So was entrepreneurship always on your brain?
No. The only interesting, helpful thing that I learned from my business degree is twofold. And that's how to write the business letter with the sandwich method. That's where you kind of tell them something nice, tell them the problem, and then you end with something nice. So the sandwich method has been very helpful in my writing throughout the year. I've been freelance writing for about 15 years now. And then I had, interestingly enough, now because of where I am, a contract that I just picked up, we'll talk about later, is I had a lawyer. And I thought he was out to get me as a teacher. And I thought he was out to get me. He failed me the first time. I failed his class. And I was one of those, I wouldn't say gifted, but I just kind of always got by on, street smarts, book smarts. I never studied a day in my life. And I failed his class. And I went back and talked to him. He ended up being a letter of reference for my first job. And he was like, Marcus, you don't study, you don't try. You are naturally talented, and you're not going to be able to get by on that. And it was really the first time someone had like challenged. I was like, that's impossible. I've gotten 21 years doing this. So I had to take his class in my final semester of school to get that $9,000 debt and that consolidation loan. I didn't get an A. I think I got a B the second time around, but that was really informative to me. And I had never, now flashing forward, I had never really had someone take a vested interest in me at the collegiate level. Like you come and go. I never really had a professor care. There's only one other professor that steps out in my mind, and that was a history teacher. And I remember he was so organized. I thought it was amazing. He did a podcast now. He'd be like the ad reads and everything that's like, that you pay editors for. He was doing that live in a history class. And I just thought that was so amazing. He'd come in, the bell would go off, and he'd start talking for 59 minutes. No matter if you didn't have your pen, you had to get ready, you didn't have your notebook out, he was going to talk for 59 minutes. And he'd had this epic story. Now, mind you, he's probably been doing this for 20, 25 years. And he would end when the second bell went off. And I was like, I'm going to do something like that one day. So I didn't come out of there learning business, but as I say now, I came out with transferable skills, which still apply to this day.
So what happened next? You racked up, you let's see, tripled your debt in 3 days. So I guess you one exit a day, and then 2 exit on day 2. And then by the time we got to day 3, you had 3x your debt, and you're a 22-year-old graduate now with a bigger mountain of debt than you started with. What happened next?
So I'll go through these timelines because I fortunately just recently had a conversation like this. So graduated at 22. I think the next milestone is going to be 27. So a lot of people ask, oh, that was it, right? That weekend you learned everything that you need to know about debt and finances, and you became what is now the debt-free personal finance expert, correct? No, it took 5 more years and $3,000 more in debt. In fact, shortly after that weekend in which I got the car, now I'm balling out of control. And I also bought that car with no negotiation. I walked on the lot. I was like, that one. And so got this car with probably like 7% interest rate or something insane because I didn't know what my credit score was. And 5 years later, one ex-girlfriend less because after the money ran out, she ran out shortly thereafter too. And I'm 27 years old now, working 3 jobs, and I hit what I call rock bottom in the book. So now I'm $30,000 in debt. Car still not paid off. Think I still had the student loan. Working 9 to 5, and I'll drop a couple of numbers. Working 9 to 5, making $50,000. I had 2 part-time jobs. I used to work at a hotel chain on the weekends for night shift, and I'd put computers together. I'll go ahead and drop the name for Dell. I'd put computers together whenever they did warehouse hours. So whenever Dell had like a Christmas sale and they needed to build computers, they would hire people for like $15 an hour. And I still couldn't make the minimum payment. And I missed the minimum payment one time. It was a Discover card, and it went to 29.9% interest overnight. And I was like, all right. I still wasn't even panicked then. I call this the tsunami. Like the water was out and I didn't realize how bad the storm was about to be. And I called Discover. I'm like, yo, I'm Discover. I'm your boy. Remember, you gave me that yo-yo in high school and $9,000 in credit card debt. You remember me? And they was like, yeah. What's up, Mr. Garrett? I was like, we need to discuss this. I can't pay this 29% interest. And they're like, well, figure it out. So I'm 27, but not quite mature yet. So I'm like, close the card. Say that's how you do your boy. I think I went to Bank of America or something like that. And I do not fortunately know how that story would have ended, but I think it was bankruptcy. I started living what would become debt free or die trying at that point. I told myself, I'll never, the rest of my living life, beg anyone for money again. I will never be in this position again. And I still wasn't done though. I had to call and ask for a consolidation loan. And I noticed there was fewer and fewer offers because I didn't have a good credit score now. I can't even manage my money. I'm over here cussing out Discover Card. And so they're like, nobody wanted to give me any money. And finally I got one. And they were asking me basic financial literacy questions now. They're like, what's your credit score? How much total debt do you have? What's your total utilization? I couldn't answer any of them. 27 years old, I never even put a budget together. And that night, probably in tears on the floor, I put together what would become debt free or die trying. So 27 is one of the first pivots and milestones. I'll pause there just in case there's any questions.
No, that's good stuff. So that's for everybody that's tuned in to thinking that you make a decision or you come to this epiphany moment like, yo, I'm headed in the wrong direction with my money. It doesn't always equal complete turnaround. It doesn't always equal a 180. It might, be a 75-degree turn. It might be no turn at all. And it might take a little more time for you to get to that place. The point is, what you have to always keep in mind and never forget is the only option is to not quit, is to not give up. Even if some more time goes by, you realize, dang, I let a year go by. I let 2 years go by. Well, the best time for you to do something was 2 years ago, but the second best time is right now. And so what you have to do is keep trying, right? The name of your book was Debt Free or Die Trying. So the effort has to remain, even if you don't get it right the first time, second time, third time, you got to keep trying. So I think that's a big extracting point from what you've shared with us thus far. Now, has the entrepreneurship bug hit you yet at this point at 27?
No, I took a job because at that time I really only knew how to trade my time for money. And so I was like, I got to get a higher paying job. This is the only thing I've ever known is how to hustle and make more money. And I applied for a job at Denver. Didn't know anything about Denver other than I'd visited for Christmas sometimes with my family. And they called me back. We had a phone interview. It's in a 6-month probation. I'm taking all the risks. It's a 6-month probation. And they're like, you come up 6 months, you make it, or 6 months, you're laid off. They asked me, what's your salary range? I never negotiated salary in my life. And I had watched a movie. Some of y'all might know it's Soul Food. And there's a light skin and a dark skin antagonist. like many of the staples of our movies in this genre. And I remember he was like, yeah, I make $70,000. And I was like, $70,000? And they're like, sure. To this day, I wonder how much money I could have asked for because they agreed to that amount of money so easily. So I think and am against soul food. And then I found out 5 years, 10 years later that I listened to the movie wrong because I was telling this story and I sent someone the clip and he goes, he asked for 80,000, right? And I was like, so now I also talk about negotiating your salary and don't base it on soul food. And there's several cost of living calculators that you can use to make an informed decision about how much you should be asking for money. But as y'all doing the math at home, there's a 40% raise. So I went from 50 to 70,000. So I was happy. Clearly, it could have been 80,000. And so 27 years old, I'm now in the Mile High City. And from 22 to 30, I got a few more raises. I informed myself on how to negotiate my salary, which is something I give away at themarcusgarrett.com now. And I started negotiating my salary, but because I'm in the public sector, I was up for a supervisor position. And I looked at what a 3% raise, cost of living raise would be for the next 20 years up to retirement. I calculated my pension and I'm starting to get familiar with the personal finance community in space. I actually think I met y'all for the first time at FinCon, but I don't think I had attended yet. And I was like, I got to the bottom of the spreadsheet and I was like, that's not a very big number. I think it was under 6 figures. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And because I'm an auditor by trade, I started researching like career analysis and career arcs, and I came across something called a paycheck plateau. And I think it's for men 48, and for women, I want to say late 30s. You functionally don't get another raise that it covers inflation and cost of living after 48 and late 30s respectively. Late 30s for women because of the gender gap.
Wow, I never heard that before.
Yeah. And so if for to that point, for people who want to Google it, one that summarizes it the easiest is Forbes magazine. The average employee will make 50% less if they stay with the company longer than 2 years. And that came out after I did this analysis. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. That's not the vision that I have for myself. So that would be the first time the aha moment, the light bulb went off over my head, but I still wasn't an entrepreneur yet because you don't know what you don't know. All I knew was that was not enough money for me. So that's about 27 to 30.
All right. So twofold question. From 27 to 30 is when all this paradigm shift started. How long after you got serious about your debt did it take you to get out of debt? And then move from there into the conversation, because a lot of people are at that place where you were. Maybe they didn't do the calculations, but they're at a place in their mind like there's got to be more, and they want to delve into entrepreneurship, have no clue on what type. So talk to us about how long it took you to get out of debt, and also the journey that you went on to figure out how you were going to dab your toe into this whole business entrepreneurship space.
So I'll put it this way. You have a great quote, there's got to be more, and there is more. And that's kind of what I focus on now. I would think for me, what it looked like is I was fortunate. I was always freelance writing, and also had a different podcast at this time where we help millennials make money, save money, and get out of debt. And we were doing all these interviews. And I remember I had one specific interview where a guest came on and she talked about if you read 10 pages a day, you can read a book a month, because she did, basic math, which it's amazing how basic math can still blow your mind. She's like, the average book's 300 pages. You can read a book a month. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And so I did this challenge for the show, ended up reading 4 books in 2 months. And then I ended up reading 28, I think I'm at now, personal finance books. And I give those away for free because I review them for the guests. And what I realized is we were having millionaires on the show. I think we had y'all on the show, and I realized I wasn't implementing anything from the show. I was listening, but I wasn't hearing. And I was like, let me have this crazy idea. Like, what if I started up my own business? I actually wrote a piece about it. I remember it was the next FinCon, and I wrote this reflective piece. This was like FinCon 2019 or maybe 18. And I said, every year I go to FinCon, every year I see people leveling up and talking about their growth and development in the last 12 months. And I'm like, oh, we recorded 52 podcasts. And I'm like, I think I can do more than that. And so I launched my brand officially in 2020. And I mean, another little pivot that happened there, number one is age, but number two was we were about to record the podcast. We used to record on Sundays, release on Monday. We were about to record the podcast one Sunday, and we got the breaking news, like everyone else across the world, that there had been a helicopter crash in LA. Then we found out right before the show that it was Kobe Bryant. We're like, okay, let's take a break. Let's take a breather. And we were about to get started again. And we found out that it was his daughter and eight other individuals that passed. It's like, we're not recording today. That Chadwick Boseman, and I think anyone, you can insert your celebrity or your individual, like you remember where you were. And like, I was, I think 37 at that time. I was like, I started thinking about my legacy differently than I ever had in my life. And I think all these events leading up to that age, which coincidentally allowed me to become an entrepreneur. So to answer what I think is a question that you have in there is, how do you get started running a business? Start running a business. Everything I've learned, it helped the books. And you ask, okay, you got a degree in business. Did that help? No. Like nothing has helped me more than this now about 18-month experience I've had running my own business. All the lessons in books and reading 20 personal finance books were good. But like I said, I was listening, but I wasn't hearing.
You bring up a good point. I'm sitting here as you're talking, thinking and reflecting like, dang, dude, have I used my business degree in this business at all? And I have not. I got two master's degrees that are in education because I was in education. I was a teacher and a school administrator, but my undergrad is in business administration. And yeah, I use absolutely none of that in this. I literally didn't think about it. You just said it. Yeah, I'm using pretty much none of it. Now there were some terminologies that you mentioned that are second nature to you, but for some people they're like, wait, back up. You mentioned that you had started freelance writing, and you mentioned you started a podcast. So how did you find out that, hey, I can make some money by writing? How did you get your toe into that game? Because some people are like, hey, I can write a little bit. What is this freelance writing thing? And how do you make money by writing? So can you give a little, freelance writing one-on-one for people who that caught their attention?
I'm going to back into it because I think there's a bigger umbrella, and it's one that I accidentally learned recently. So my brother-in-law says I Forrest Gump my way through life, to answer your question real quickly. Everything I do, I stumbled into. I started freelance writing because I started blogging. And I started blogging because I was on MySpace. And most people don't even realize this, but there used to be a blog section in MySpace. And I was just writing funny stories about things happening in my life, and people were commenting. They're like, hey, you need a blog. I'm like, oh, what? I didn't know what the hell a blog was. And so then I started a blog under a pseudonym because I thought I was so important that no one needed to know my story. So I started hiding. Of course, when I came out, no one cared. And that being said, so I go by the government name now. And I got about, I was getting like 10,000 views. I didn't realize how good I was doing. I was like, people were like, oh, what's your view count? I'm like, I'm getting like 10,000 views a month. They're like, what? I don't get that. Like, I work for, Huffington Post. We're not seeing those numbers. Bad example because I get millions. And I was like, oh, okay. If you say that's good, that's good. And a team of writers like Voltron reached out to me, and they're like, hey, we're 7 writers. Because it is pretty exhausting to maintain websites. I'm sure if you maintain a blog. And they were like, hey, we're going to each write a blog a month, and then a blog a day. And so that way you could take off some of the load, we'll share the profits. And with that one, ended up doing 100,000 views a month. I talked to the owner of it later. And so to answer your question, like, you do it by doing it. You learn by doing it. I got into freelance writing by starting to write. Dynamics changed a little bit as far as access. So you got to access it differently. But I also think really in everything I talk about, there's so many more options now. So it's more difficult and more higher competition, but there's more entryways. Like you said, that the gateways have been torn down. The way I was going to back into it, I reached out recently, and it's another contract gig I picked up now. I have like 26 affiliates and 7 revenue streams, might be 9 now. I track an Excel spreadsheet. And I reached out to a woman that I've been working with for years in the same space because I wanted to pick up some continuing professional education training, which is something that auditors and things need. And I was like, hey, can I work with you? And I knew she was well in the space and super big. And I was like, and also, can I ask you a personal question? And she's like, yeah. I was like, I see how big you've gotten. I see the growth that you have. I think I remember when you started, because I try to also, like, people think they know you when they saw you in your journey, but they don't realize you ran 100 miles and they see the 99th mile. They're like, man, you make it look so easy. It's like, do you know how many miles I've been running for you to think this was easy in the final mile? And she goes, I'm actually hesitant to say this to you. And I was like, what's that? She's like, I call it walk by faith. I feel that, God put me where I needed to be successful when I needed to be successful. And I have no idea how it happened. She's like, I was prepared for it when it came. I had a system in place. And I thought that was funny that she was embarrassed to say that to me, but I thought that was amazing because I thought she had it all together and all figured out. And that's another thing I learned through these interviews. A lot of people don't have it figured out going in. A lot of people on the top don't have it figured out at the top. I'm like, how did you do it? They're like, I have no idea how I got here. I don't know how I'm still here. But I think it's that hunger, that walk by faith. My therapist calls it a faith walk. And I'll end with her stories that she shared with me. She said she started her practice. She had a full-time job. She started her practice pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. She's like, oh my, what was I thinking? Like, no, I started a in-person activity during the middle of the pandemic. And she said she did more business during the pandemic than she had done in the prior 2 years because people are now reflective on life and they want to talk to somebody and they need help. They're stuck in the house. And she's like, but I had the system in place. So when all these thousands of people came, or views, or whatever her numbers are, my practice was able to be successful because I was ready to succeed. So everything that I'm talking about here is happenstance, and it's a glorious Forrest Gump run that I'm on. But I've always been really good, and this is what I coach people in now about when your Forrest Gump run starts, you better have a system in place for all that run and for all that success.
Legal and General America is the leader in low cost term life insurance.
For nearly 70 years, Legal and General America has been providing financial protection to over 1.3 million families and businesses.
LGA makes understanding and applying for life insurance easy.
You can get a free quote by simply going to hisandhermoney.com/LGA.
Good stuff, man. So you stumbled, as you say, Forrest Gumped your way into the world of freelance writing. You started a podcast based on the relationships that you had from all your stumbling into freelance writing. And then from that podcast, you talked to so many people and you realized, hey, I'm not even doing what they're saying. And they're saying some good stuff. Maybe I should implement what I'm hearing myself. So let's pretend that somebody listens to the His and Her Money Show on a regular basis. And they're hearing nugget after nugget after nugget that they have not implemented themselves. Based on your trajectory, a period of not executing versus the time that you decided to start executing, what advice would you give that person?
I'll share a quote that someone said to me actually while I was giving a talk. We're friends now. And he came up to me afterwards. He goes, man, the key to overnight success is the first 10 years. And this was pre-pandemic and maybe 5 years ago now. And I was telling this story about what I was doing it must have been my 20s because I was in my 30s telling this story. And so that's one thing I would share is I didn't realize the patience it would take to reach this plane of success. And really even this peace that I find myself in walking by faith and walking in my purpose is, for example, with the business I'm running now, even now, and it's kind of how I measure myself. I thought it'd be, whatever, more than it is making now. It's very successful, but I thought it'd be more. But that's just how my brain works. And so I really had to take a step back and appreciate all the growth and accomplishments. I think my father described it as staying humble, but remaining hungry. So I don't have a problem remaining hungry. If anything, I'm too hungry all the time, like a voracious eater. And so I would say to that person to recognize how far you have come. And then I think the other quote is we overestimate what we can accomplish in a day and underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And that seems like a long time until it isn't. And another quote that my dad actually gave me was use your 20s to learn, your 30s to apply, and your 40s to teach and mentor. So I am naturally, because I'm 39, at the arc of teaching and mentoring, and it's exactly what I'm doing. And I feel comfortable teaching and mentoring because I've got 20 years of mistakes, trials, and tribulations. So if I don't know anything else, I can tell you what not to do. And so for those people, wherever they fall on that timeline, and there may be some people further down that timeline, I'll share one more that someone gave me. So I love that quote. I give it all the time. 20s to learn, 30s to apply, 40s to teach and mentor. People love it. Oh, I'm going to write that down as a bookmark. I should probably copyright it. But that being said, a woman walked up to me afterwards. She's like, well, I'm in my 40s and or she's in her 50s. She goes, I think you should use your 40s to have fun and your 50s to teach and mentor. And I like that a lot because I'm in my 40s and it also elongates the race. So, wherever you fall on the scale, as you opened with, it's never too late to start. Best time was yesterday and the next best time is today.
You're awesome, man. I know another thing that you said in passing that I know people are going to want me to get some more details on. You said you had like 20 something affiliates, and I think you said 15 ways that your business generates income. Would you mind unpacking some of that? Because that might spark some ideas for the person that's sitting around trying to figure out what they want to try and what they want to try to use as a vehicle to generate some additional streams of income into their life.
Yeah, so I'll drop one plug. I'm subscribed to Smart Brief on Leadership. So it's a newsletter that comes out every Monday. or actually it's a daily newsletter, and it just kind of sparks ideas. So I used to be subscribed to like 26 newsletters, and because of the
Now
pandemic,
say that one more time. The what?
Smart
Smart
Brief.
brief
Yeah.
on
Smart
leadership.
Brief on Leadership. You
Okay.
can Google it. Hopefully you'll see my name on it. So like 200,000 listserv, and I'm trying to pitch them. I'm talking to the editor right now, not paid. So I'll say that because they just spark ideas for me every day. It's a daily newsletter, and they have a bunch that you can go into, entrepreneurship, et cetera. So I'll drop that plug. The other way that I would hit it is, for me, my 7, I'm looking at a whiteboard back here, is affiliates. So I have 26 affiliates now. And actually, one of the newsletters was defining your most important task and how to do it. So I used to be distracted by all these things and pretty lights and stuff, and they weren't making me any money. And my most lucrative was always affiliates. So in 2021, when I launched this brand, I was like, I'm going to onboard all the affiliates I can think of. And for someone who hasn't worked with an affiliate, it's pretty straightforward. Like, I'm an affiliate for Amazon. So if you buy something through Amazon for me, I get paid for it. Amazon doesn't pay a lot of money. That's a separate issue I have with Amazon, but I am an affiliate for Amazon. And I have 26 more of those. So if you listen to the Marcus Garrett show, you'll hear me speak to him. I was like, this week's show is sponsored by, and I'll say who exactly my affiliate is. And if you want a direct link, please click the affiliate link found in your show notes. I get paid for that. I have referral partners. So a good example would be if I have a real estate partner, I don't do real estate courses. Let's say they want to take a course in real estate. I'll recommend one of my real estate partners. I might get 40 or 60% of that course sale. If I have a realtor and they close a deal, then maybe whatever our memorandum of understanding or something like that is, maybe I get 1% of that deal. Maybe I get 20% referral fee or whatever the case is. Then I have courses, which I changed this year. I used to build like these elaborate courses because I do continuing professional education for auditors. And I realized the average person does not think like an auditor and does not want to, and I don't blame them. I call myself a recovering auditor, and I just successfully got out. Actually quit my job today. So I just
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I successfully parachuted out of the audit field. I've been talking about being a recovering auditor.
Oh man, breaking news, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I had no clue.
Yeah, I don't know when this particular podcast will drop, but yes, while we were recording.
Yeah, but in real time, This is pretty dope, man. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. So I have courses, and now I'm just going to do office hours because what I realized is my newsletter is 6,000. I add about 250 a week now. Just once again, I learned my most important task, what works, what fails, and I know what ads to run to add people to my newsletter. And then they ask me questions and I answer it in the office hours. I do all the research, and I call it moving you from goals to achievement. So if you want to go from talking about it to doing it, be about that life, then you can join my newsletter, and joining the newsletter is free. I have books, like you said. I freelance write. I don't freelance write as much anymore because it takes a lot of time, and it wasn't one of my primary revenue generators. So you can make a lot of money freelance writing, but I can make a lot more in other ways now. So I don't freelance write as much. I speak, I do webinars, and I take on sponsors. I'm looking at this whiteboard for people who are like, what is his eyes doing? So that currently is my revenue streams. And then I literally have right here Q3, July through September, scale affiliates, brand partnerships, target list, which means every third quarter of every year, I just basically try to level up.
I like that, man. I love it a lot. And you made me think of something because I got some stuff to refer to y'all too. Listen, if you need to learn how to become a freelance writer, we got a course for that in the show notes. If you need to learn how to get into the affiliate game, we got a course for that in the show notes. If you need to learn how to get in the podcast game, we got a course for that in the show notes. Continuing education is the cheat code. With so much information out there, you don't have to try to piecemeal it together, jump in a solid course, and we only recommend solid stuff to you. Like, people try to get us to promote stuff all the time that we don't. We only promote stuff that we believe in. So everything in the show notes, we believe in it. You can believe in it too. We got Marcus's website down there as well. So you can jump on his newsletter and all the stuff that he offers as well. As you have been building, right? You just announced to us that you've been slowly building this thing to get yourself to the point of being able to fire your boss. You didn't do it overnight. You took a methodical approach to it. So somebody's teetering. Somebody's like frustrated or like, yo, I need to start my business. I'm just gonna jump and go for it. Why did you take a methodical approach that you did? And what would be your advice to somebody on the fence?
I would say the reason I took a methodical approach is it's because of who I am. I'm an auditor. I've been an auditor for 15 years. It does align with my nature. And I actually truly do and still love the field of audit. I kind of got frustrated because I did not feel like it was my purpose at this age and time. The way I phrase it is I believe I can bring more to the world than creating Excel spreadsheets. I don't think that's particularly crazy. And if that's the case for that individual, the reason I didn't quit is that 400% increase. And people call it the golden handcuffs. So I had a 400% increase in my salary. It's a lot easier to walk away from a $9 job, which is what I made at 22, than it was to walk away from, I think I was making 120, 10, over 6. And so the math just didn't make sense. I had a great job. I had a great dream. I used to describe it as I can walk away and be highly uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't want to walk away and be highly uncomfortable. So I guess the pivot or the fork in the road for that person, I would say, is like, if you hate your job, then you might want to pull your parachute much sooner than I did. I did not hate my job. There was one point where I was in a toxic environment, but I just got out of that environment. And so, and I don't mean in this recent job, this is one before this. And it's just like finding that's your first investor. A lot of times what people don't like, your job is your first investor, and start putting that money towards in that metaphor, the parachute. And I'll give you an example. You actually said it. I had someone approach me, a affiliate deal. And so I lost 40,000 in 1 week in contracts. So if you like steady paychecks, this might not be for you. 1 week, 2 different contractors emailed me. They're like, hey, we're going to end this program. And one was 12,000, one was about 30,000. And I'd love to say, I was like, oh, that's what's up. You know, y'all, man, I was like, I'm gonna be homeless tomorrow. But I ran the numbers. I talked to my business coach, and, you know, I have an emergency fund, but, you know, flight or flight, I was ready to flight, you know, and I really had to kind of calm down and be like, oh, okay, if this is going to be inconvenient for about 3 months, because, you know, losing money, I'm not making so much money where 40,000 like pocket change to me. It's some change, and it ain't pocket. But I had somebody literally that week. This is that walk by faith. The devil never sleeps. So within the same week, you know, I'm in panic, or no, 2 weeks to be fair. I got a 10,000 back. I landed another contract gig, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm not as far in the hole. And then another contractor came. They're like, hey, how much would you do for 10,000? And I'll just say it was a partnership because I don't want nobody Googling it. I mean, they're out there still doing their thing. And I Googled them, and I was like, they had a lot of bad reviews. And it was like in a sketchy type of niche that I didn't necessarily want to affiliate my brand with. But, you know, it's $10,000. So I was like sitting there. I was like, I just lost 40. I could be up 20. You know, you start doing that. You fumble the bag. You start quoting Gucci Man. I'm about to fumble it back, get it back, you know. And I was like, you know what? This is a test. This is a test. If I take this money, I'm gonna like lose it all, or, you know, the company's gonna go broke or something. I was like, I think I'm going to walk away from this and walk by faith that my Forrest Gump run will continue, and I'll be okay. And so to that person, if you're not ready to do that, whatever your amount of money is, whether that's the day job, or if somebody put some sketchy amount of money from you and you couldn't walk away and you had to question your integrity to do so, you're not ready. And that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then when you are ready, I have not found a better way to learn how to do it, whether it's reading, writing, running a business, entrepreneurship, 26 affiliates, speaking, webinar, without doing it. And I think the safest place to test it is actually while you're still gainfully employed.
Now, for those who will take the methodical approach that you took, how did you know it was time to jump today?
I was kind of pushed. So luckily I had my parachute ready, because I probably wouldn't have gone as quick. But that's another thing about the parachute. I was waiting for a level of security for what? So what wouldn't it have come? So I like to use systems, and I'm an auditor, so I'm visual. And I'm walking my group now, my community, through a 4-week system right now. And in week 1, it's a 1 sentence, you define your dream. And I feel like this is where a lot of people stop. It's the New Year's resolution, and then they fall off 30 days later. And week 2, you define your goals. So what 5 goals would help you achieve that dream. We're in week 2 right now, so this sounds familiar to some of my listeners. And then in week 3, I feel like this is where my strength is, my zone of genius, my purpose is. You define a system. I call them SMART goals. You call them, people call them key performance indicators. So you've got a dream. Now you've got your goals. What's the step by step? This is the minutia. This is where people get exhausted. This is why auditors will be gainfully employed to the history of time. I think they said auditors were around in biblical time, because this is the part people don't want to do. It's building a system around achieving those goals. And then in week 4, we take step 1. And where I feel like people break down is they don't get to week 3 and 4. They have a dream. They might define some goals to achieve that dream, but a lot of people just stay in the dream world. They just stay in the dream world, and you've got to get into the real world if you want to be successful.
Ooh, a couple different ways I can go there, because it is so easy for a couple things to happen that could have happened on your journey. Maybe it did, and maybe you fought through it. When you get some success in whatever you're trying to do, it becomes easy to get distracted by the process, as you talked about. You use quarter 3 to do so, the process of leveling up, because there's so many opportunities, options. You see other people in a similar type of niche or genre or field as you, and they tried this and it seemed to work. Maybe I should try that too. And you can see that in 3 different places and want to do all of the above, and then you start feeling like you're not doing enough. So there's that type of distraction. And I'm wondering if you ever bumped up against that, and how did you, because you are because your nature and the work that you did, you think things through. How did you not get caught up in squirrel chasing things and weakening what you had as a result? How did you stay the course and not let what others are doing distract you?
Well, I would say that actually I did. I've been distracted. I've lost a lot of money. Hell, I lost 40,000 2 weeks ago. I've lost a lot of money, and when I'm in my dark days, which I still have, I think about all the things I lost. I think about, man, if I invested that 30,000 from school, if I hadn't got that car with rims, if I hadn't, lost this $40,000 contract, and I could probably easily come up and be accurate, it'd be in the millions right now. I could have put that in Bitcoin, and I could have leveled up here, and I'd have got out of Bitcoin before the last plunge, because I'd have just all figured it out. And actually, what I wrote down here in response to the question is, I know I will succeed again because I have failed. And I've learned through all those failures that they literally did not kill me. They made me stronger. Some of my toughest lessons, actually, it's crazy. I give talks on this now. I did an audit, and this guy made my life a living hell from sun up to sundown for 6 months, and called me everything but a child of God one time on speakerphone. And I was like, golly. And I'm 27 years old. This is when I moved to Denver, and I was like, man, I'll never overcome this. I'll never get through this. It made me question myself a lot, because he was older than me. And I was like, and I got through it. That audit ended up winning an award. Actually, this is why I talk about it in my continuing professional education. And I learned 2 things. Number one is, what doesn't kill you does make you stronger. Not to be cliche, but when I left, that same guy, he ran into my coworker. He didn't know I had left. And he goes, hey, man, whatever happened to Marcus? I hadn't seen him in a while. And he's like, oh, he left. I was like, oh, what'd he say? That, he gonna put his hands on me when he see me, he gonna track me down? And he was like, no, he said he always enjoyed working with you. To this day, this is like the $80,000 raise that I never got. I'll be wondering, how does he treat his enemies if that's the way he treated his friends, But I remember one time, this is actually right after he cursed me out one time. I was like, look, man, I don't know what you heard or what you thought you heard, what you think you're going to do. I'm objective. I'm going to follow the facts, and I'm going to go wherever the facts take me. And if you ever feel that's not true about my team, you can call me. And you think that's ever not true about me, you can call my boss. If you don't think that's true about my boss, we're all a bunch of liars out here on the witch hunt, you can call his boss, take it to the Denver Post, to do whatever you got to do. And he laughed, and he's like, you're all right, Marcus. And, what I think, going back to thematically, even walking away from this $10,000 deal recently, is I have Now, especially the confidence. Right then, it was fake confidence. I'm like, man, if you say something back, I ain't got no more comeback. That was like the smoothest line. It's like, I hope his rap battle ain't better than this because I just dropped my 16. I ain't got no more heat after this. So luckily, it was over. But I ain't got no more freestyle left. And I've now learned that integrity, confidence, and really something as simple as saying what you're going to do and doing what you're going to, or saying what you're going to do and doing it is very difficult to find. And I actually hear that a lot now from people that I work with. They're like, I'm so grateful you said you were going to do and you delivered. Tanya Rapley, who I'm sure you've had on the show, she calls it execution. Like execution is such a lost skill out there. And I think people who execute, so if there's a listener who already executes, you're at 90% ahead of the game and you don't even realize it. And if you're the 10% that don't execute, if you started executing, you would supersede 90% of people out there. So just putting yourself out there, and you're going to fail. I'll probably fail again next week. Like I said, I just quit my job. I might fail again. We're going to see if it's blown up. Luckily, I've talked to the missus and we've got some emergency funds to see how this goes. But I'm not as scared as I used to be because I know what the system is. I know what I need to do. I went through this 4-week plan that I'm taking the listeners through. So I know my dream. I know my goal. Actually, I've been implementing it for about 16 months. So I'm nervous. I guess you could call that fear, but I'm not going to let that stop me because not letting fear stop me has allowed me to level up more than letting fear stop me ever has. So I'm going to push forward and I'm going to keep on this Forrest Gump run.
Man, good stuff, Marcus. You gave a whole lot of game today, man. I know everybody want to stay connected with you. So tell everybody how to stay in touch with you, your website, your social, your show. Let them know how to plug in.
I'm universally branded like y'all, but at the Marcus Garrett. So wherever you're listening to this, you can find the podcast for motivational conversations with your favorite influencers and entrepreneurs about life after debt. You can find my book on Amazon, and you can find me on YouTube as well at the Marcus Garrett. And if you go to themarcusgarrett.com, I have a free giveaway. My most popular one, I have, lots of free giveaways. My most popular is how much debt can you afford on a $30,000, $50,000, or $100,000 salary? I'll give that to you for free at themarcusgarrett.com.
Sweet. We'll have all of that linked up in the show notes of this episode as we get ready to land this plane, Marcus. If somebody's on their journey from getting out of debt to trying to level up at their vocation to trying to figure out additional streams of income, all roads that you had to drive down yourself. And the thought of all of these things that's before them can feel overwhelming to the point of paralysis. What would be your last word of encouragement if you had a chance, I should say, to talk to that person one-on-one?
For me personally, and what I would say is I wish I had the confidence in myself and the abilities I have sooner. I do not know how to have got there sooner than making the mistakes that I did. So I have the confidence to do them because of the mistakes I made. If you need mentorship and you need leadership and you need networking, which I'm really big on, I believe that your mentors and network see in you your greatness 5 to 10 years before you do. So I surrounded myself with mentors. I have one now that I still associate with, a business coach, and they've actually expanded. They see the greatness in you before you can see it in yourself. So I would find those individuals. And if you haven't found them yet, no plug because it's free. You can visit themarcusgarrett.com. I interview people. That's exactly why I changed it from entertaining to motivational. That's the legacy, which is one of the things that I want to leave behind. That's one of my dreams, to leave a legacy. So I want to provide a forum for people to be motivated to be great.
Dope. Thank you so much, Marcus, for taking time to open up the book of your life so that we can learn some lessons from the lessons that you learned along the way. Congratulations to all that you've overcome and all the things that's before you. Thank you for sharing all of this wisdom with our audience today.
Thank you for having me.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. Another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show is in the books. I hope you took good notes because you got some good game on this episode. Remember, we have fantastic interviews just like this by the hundreds, literally. My God, we've been doing this so long. Over at our website, hisandhermoney.com. And don't forget, sharing is caring. Tell somebody that they need to check this episode out because of all the wisdom that Marcus gave. And as you do it, tag us at His and Her Money. That's all we got for this time, guys. Until next time, peace.